Hi everyone, this is Lisa Byers, Advances in Microbiology presentation. My topic today is on the associations between gut microbiota and Alzheimer's disease, major depressive disorder, and schizophrenia. I'll first start with a little background. The human intestines contains a complex group of gut microbiota which influence the risk of neuropsychiatric disorders. Some of the disorders associated included Alzheimer's disease, major depressive disorder, and schizophrenia. Microbiota metabolites such as neurotransmitters and short-chain fatty acids may play a role in the microbiota host crosstalk that regulates the brain function and behavior. To understand the mechanism of the gut-brain axis in neuropsychiatric disorders may have clinical benefits. Most case studies showed differences in the composition of the gut microbiota between healthy individuals and patients with neuropsychiatric disorders. Continuing on, observational case control studies differed amongst these disorders. Genome-based metabolic modeling of the human gut microbiota revealed the production of microbial neurotransmitters such as Y-aminobutyric acid and serotonin. Increased GABA levels were associated with a lower risk of Alzheimer's disease. Lower plasma serotonin and higher platelet serotonin was higher in schizophrenia patients, as lower platelet serotonin concentrations were associated with depressive symptoms in schizophrenia patients. The article overview. Article title: Associations between gut microbiota and Alzheimer's disease, major depressive disorder, and schizophrenia. Overarching question: does alterations in the gut microbiota composition reveal an association and cause of neuropsychiatric conditions such as Alzheimer's disease, major depressive disorder, and schizophrenia? The findings support potential associations between certain gut microbiota and neuropsychiatric disorders. The evidence showed GABA and serotonin play an important role in microbiota host crosswalk in these disorders. Methods. Mendelian randomization overcomes the bias due to confounding and reverse causation, has been used to assess causal relationships of host genetic variants influence with the gut microbiota composition. The study applied a two-sample bidirectional MR approach to detect the causal relationship between gut microbiota, metabolites, and diverse forms of neuropsychiatric disorders. The MR approach used summary-level data from a large genome-wide association studies for gut microbiota and Alzheimer's, major depression disorder, and schizophrenia. As you can see from this slide, it shows the description of gut microbiota, metabolites, and neuropsychiatric disorders. They collected data which leveraged the summary of statistics from the genome-wide association studies of gut microbiota conducted among two independent but geographically matched cohorts from the European ancestry. So it shows the traits of the gut versus the neuropsychiatric disorders, the type of study that was done, the sample size, and the control studies with the population and the year that it was done. Now, during the discussion of the article, the two-sample bidirectional MR study showed evidence of the relationship between certain bacterial traits and gut microbiota. Depending on the type of bacterial trait would depend on the increase or decrease of certain neuropsychiatric disorders. It showed the relationship between Blatia with Alzheimer's disease and three other types of bacteria that had to do with schizophrenia and of bacilli class that had to do with major depressive disorder. In one direction, it showed the relationship between the neurotransmitters GABA and serotonin produced by the gut microbiota. It implied the important role they played in microbiota host crosstalk in the brain function and behavior. This side takes a look at the other direction, which shows the link between neuropsychiatric disorders and how they may alter the composition of the gut microbiota. So if you look at the slide, depending on which side you're looking at, it goes over the GABA bacteria and the serotonin. And it shows how certain diseases, when they found that in the gut, either made that disease risk increase or it lowered the risk. The next slide shows the relationship and causal effect of GABA and the risk of Alzheimer's disease. Now, if you look at this graph, it shows the risk of Alzheimer's lowers when the plasma levels of GABA is up. And it goes over a little bit about the genetic pre-indicators of GABA and the effect that it has. This slide shows the relationship and causal effect of serotonin and the risk of schizophrenia. So as we look at the chart, it shows when plasma levels of serotonin is high, the risk of getting or developing schizophrenia increases. It also shows in the graphs below the effects that serotonin has. So by looking at the graph, you can kind of tell what the plasma levels do. Next, we're going to look at the results of GABA. The results of a bidirectional MR study showed, for the first time possible, evidence of a relationship between Blautia bacteria and Alzheimer's. GABA, which is a downstream product of Blautia, was related to a reduced risk of Alzheimer's disease. Other findings suggest that GABA produced by gut microbiota played an important role in microbiota host crosstalk between brain function and behavior. It also showed the important role it plays with our central nervous system in cognition. Since Alzheimer's disease does not show up suddenly, but develops through a long prodromal phase, it's safe to say that early intervention of this disorder targeting the microbiota, gut microbiota, transplantation, psychobiotics, or antibiotics. The next slide shows the results regarding serotonin. The results of a bidirectional MR study and cross-sectional studies identified Enterobacterales family and Gamma-Proteobacteria class to be important biomarkers of schizophrenia. It shows a strong relationship between lower platelet serotonin concentrations with depressive symptoms of schizophrenia. When higher serotonin plasma levels were determined, they associated that with a higher risk of schizophrenia. Even though these studies showed insight on the relationship between the two, some of the evidence was inadequate since the observational study highly relied on self-reported information. It is plausible that alterations in gut microbiota and related metabolites lead to inflammation that may contribute to these diseases. So I now would like to conclude. In summary, the data and studies support, for the first time, several potential associations between gut microbiota and neuropsychiatric disorders. It also provided data on the importance of how GABA and serotonin play a role in gut microbiota host crosstalk in these diseases. These areas of understanding still need further investigations in the understanding and underlying mechanisms linked to these disorders. Thank you.